on this. Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello, my name's Jenny Luscombe and I'm an alternative health professional. I'm an EFT practitioner and an emotion code practitioner and a quantum healer. And this is my good friend Tim York. And today we've decided to make a video about self-sabotaging subconscious limiting beliefs.
Yeah. And patterning, right? So yeah, I'll just introduce myself very briefly. So yeah, Tim York. On the personal side, I'm an intuitive reader and a coach. In the business world, what am I? I'm a troublemaker, basically. No, not just that. I do like thought leadership and consultancy. And I think in that area, I'm probably most passionate about meaningful change and helping to stop the opposite of that, which is lip service and bullshit, which is most of the corporate world. So, I try and make my dent where I can. Anyway, that's me. Hello.
Well, I'll put all the links underneath for me and for you.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this topic of conversation, which came up naturally the other day when we were out for a meal, I've been looking at the kind of what to title this video and looking at the search engine optimization and all that marketing stuff. And the censorship, oh my God. So well, I mean, I've already been finding this, but like any emotional words, basically, all emotions, any information about that is censored.
No.
Anything to do with trauma, anything to do, the big ones like anxiety and depression, even for children, like anything like patterning, anything involving the word subconscious, programming, mind control, all of that censored, all of it. Absolutely shocking. So I do know what I'm gonna call this video, and I'm gonna call it self-destruction, because there's kind of like I've seen that there's a bit of a loophole. So I'm gonna call it self-destruction. Why am I self-destructing, sabotaging the good stuff?
This reminds me of that. Is it Taylor Swift who did that song, I'm the Problem, It's Me? And she's
Yeah.
put all these really important messages in there, but she's labeled it a certain way, so it kind of got through the filters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
yeah.
to have a listen to that again because my daughter
Anti-hero.
was
It's
in.
like, yeah, calling yourself the bad guy is okay. I can call myself the bad guy and that'll get through the censorship. But if I do any hint of like talking about self-work or healing from trauma, it's not allowed.
There's some mind-blowing lyrics in that song about altruism. Like she rhymes altruism with covert narcissism. It's
Mm.
like, wow, how did she get that
Yeah,
into the song? Like, but
yeah.
yeah, it's a
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
it's a tune. I'm gonna put that on afterwards and have a listen. Um, yeah. So the first thing that I wanted to say, and this has been inspired by Teal Swan. Basically, self-sabotage is a bit misleading because it's what everybody it's the term that everybody uses to describe, when situations in life, like when things get good, why does something always come to basically fuck that up? Or why do I do something to mess something up? And I can feel myself do it, it unfolds, and then afterwards I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't plan for that. I didn't set that intention. It seemed to just rugby tackle me and take me away from the good vibes that I was experiencing. So the reason that self-sabotage is happening is because our consciousnesses are fragmented by trauma, as you know. But the term self-sabotage is actually misleading because there is no part of us that is against us. All of our parts, even if they feel critical, even if they feel like an internalized voice of a parent or an authority figure or whatever, like that's it's other people's voices that are sabotaging us. It's not our own voice. So if we have a part of consciousness that seems to take us in the opposite direction of the project that we want to complete or the self-improvement thing that we want to do, it's because that part is a protector. So it's because we've actually got more than one motivation that is true for us. So this video is about all of the subconscious limiting beliefs that we can be holding literally in the cells of our body that can take us down and can prevent us from being who we want to be, doing what we want to do, like living how we want to live. So even though we say we've got an internal self-saboteur, we haven't. We've got opposing parts. And the interesting thing about the parts is even if they're opposing, they're both valid. So it's a bit of a, but like you can do inner child work and you can do parts work and things like that on these parts. And all these parts need is to be seen and to be heard and to be felt and to be understood, to be expressed, to be witnessed, to be loved. And actually in the act of really hearing what's going on for this part and really hearing what's going on for this part, the parts stop opposing each other and they start to align. And even though they were seeming to be opposing, in the hearing and the witnessing of what seemed to be the opposition dissolves. So I mean, this is all that healing is. All that healing is witnessing the stuckness. And that's literally it. And a lot of people overcomplicate healing, but it really is just that. So
so all I think the important point in there was like all parts of us are valid and no parts of us are wrong, you know. Yeah, and that this process that you're talking about takes away the walls between them, you know, so that they can actually communicate with each other, and that facilitates healing.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that you can have really conflicting, opposing voices. I'm trying to think of a good example.
Well, you've just reminded me there actually of when I go through like a healing, sometimes I'll find myself simultaneously crying and laughing at the same time. And that to me is like an indication that there are two distinctly different parts of me where a link has been made somehow in the process.
Yeah, and that's such a good sign. And it happens in EFT sessions a lot. It happens to me a lot. When you're crying and laughing at the same time, you've made it. Because like if you think about it, we're always trying to get to the neutral point. So like what the aim is of healing and spiritual awakening, like the whole thing is we're trying to unify the opposites, aren't we? We're trying to, because we're on a continual like pendulum swing, like a game of ping pong between kind of like this polar thing and then the direct opposite thing. And that's why parts works really well, because when you hear both of the parts, you don't have to be, oh, there's this going on, oh no, what about that? Because that ping pong is basically your subconscious going, but this is true, oh, but so this is true too, oh, so this is true over here, and this is true. And it's like we go on like that forever. And you know, I still have it going on forever, even though I'm somebody that consciously heals pretty much all the time. Our parts can't express themselves fully when that opposite thing is going on. So of course your subconscious is like, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. So when you're crying and laughing at the same time, you've got these polar emotions happening that are both real, and laughing and crying are both profoundly healing for your nervous system. And it makes sense that if you're experiencing both of those at the same time, you're integrating the polar aspects of yourself and you're landing in the neutral point, which is what we're really trying to do as a collective consciousness in humanity. Is we're trying to find the middle way.
So we're becoming less fragmented in the process and more unified I guess like that topic is coming up for me a lot at the moment, like more broadly, in in terms of, well, where are we headed in life, and where are we heading other people? Is it into more division, separation, fragmentation, or towards more unity? And bringing the different aspects of ourselves together, so that it's kind of like we're in an alchemical process of healing, where different parts of us are being reintegrated. Yeah. It's a similar vibe.
This is why, it only works to sort of go deep and go light. Like, you can't just jump over all the stuff. So that's what this video is about. Like, you could sit around with Louise Hay's affirmations and you could just say those all day long. And to some degree, you'll be flying high, and it'll feel good to say, I love and approve of myself, and all my energy is flowing freely, and, all of that. And it's all true that that's an aspect of you that's true. But when you just say the love and light stuff, how healing works is, because the universe wants that for you, the not that, the not love and approval will just go, and it will just hit you in the face. But like, that's when people think something's gone wrong. But that, ask and you'll receive. Like, you've asked, I want this higher frequency, I want this better life, I want the, more abundance, I want more joy, and all of this, and you can have it, and it's your entitlement. But you've got to sort this lot out.
Yeah, you've got to move through all that you're ready to face in that layer. Yeah.
And just this morning I had a client on the phone who has had like some healing with me, and is experiencing a dark night in the soul now, directly after the healing, and wondering what to do. And it seems like chaos is happening, and like there's family chaos, and there's all sort of manner of stuff that's going on as a result of, not just as a result of the healing, but it's that time, like now is when chaos is happening right now. Ascension is like underway. But the the universe is looking at the healing and the heightened awareness that she now has, and she has to face all of this stuff in order for that to be true, for that to be what she's putting out. Because she's putting that out, but all of the stuff has to come up in order for that to be sustained. So sometimes people give up on their healing, or they just feel like they go on a downward spiral. Whatever I do, nothing works. And it's because you've got to see it through. If all of the not love and approval for yourself comes up, you need to look at it, you need to listen to it, you need to sit with it, you need to deal with it, because it's a temporary experience. And unfortunately, with all the programming that we've had from parents, authority figures, the matrix, everything, like all of that stuff, there's so much of it, and we just have to find ways that work for us to kind of move through all of that and to integrate it. We can't get rid of it, but we have to integrate it. We have to look at all that stuff, figure out where it came from, and then look at why it's good. That's a really good way. Why is it good that this person treated me that way? What situation am I now in that's good as a result of that experience? And obviously feel the compassion for the self, and allow yourself to be angry, allow yourself to feel pain, allow yourself to have physical symptoms in your body as a result of that constant nightmare that you were experiencing.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, a lot of people find it hard to understand like what limiting beliefs are and whether they're even there. So it's interesting, sort of in conversation, like me and Tim have similar types of trauma, and we had kind of different upbringings, because Tim was very urban, in an urban environment. I was kind of in a countrified sort of environment, but the patterning and the limitation and the struggles that we've had are kind of very similar, because we had quite similar parents in a way, not exactly the same. But it's sometimes funny to think about the things that it is that have limited us. So I thought this video would be a really good idea, so that people can understand what subconscious limiting beliefs are. So the one that made me laugh recently when I saw one of your videos was, we just don't go there. We just don't go there.
I
And
love
like,
that one.
this is probably one of the biggest that humanity is facing, because the majority of people on the planet don't think they need to heal, because we just don't go there. So I'll let you elaborate on that one.
Yeah, well, I think it just applies in so many areas of life, doesn't it? I see that everywhere, you know, in my personal life, in the business world, and it's like, you know, there's an elephant in the room, or multiple elephants, and we just don't go there because it's too difficult, or it's going to cause too many knock-on problems. But if we live our lives that way, we're gonna end up in a really, eventually, you know, in a really horrific situation, because we're just not dealing with ourselves, and we're just not dealing with our trauma, you know, or our patterning, whatever you want to call it. So it becomes essential. There's almost too many examples, you know, for me to just pick out a few, but like maybe I've just give one. When at times gone by, many times gone by, I've tried to approach my parents to look at therapy, to say, you know, I think I need therapy. You know, obviously nobody's perfect, and we all have our issues and our patterning, trauma, whatever. You know, can we go to therapy together, or, you know, we look for some other third party support, completely impartial, you know, all of that. And I just get this stone wall of, no, I'm fine, we just don't go there. And, you know, for that kind of to have that kind of shutdown as a child and also as an adult is so distressing. But you realize eventually that it's because that's their way of dealing with life. You know, if something is too big a challenge or too triggering, and, you know, because the wounding is so big, then you just get the shutters come down, and we just don't go there. So that's just one example. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had that same journey with my parents, as you know. I mean, as soon as I realized, you know, I actually needed to go on that journey to try to get my mum particularly to talk to me about what had gone on when we were kids. I had to sort of go through the rejection, and, you know, I was actually made the bad guy for speaking out loud about things that I'd perceived and things that had gone on, which is a classic. And the black sheep, the scapegoat, whatever words you want to sort of describe the truth speaker of the family, and there are many of us, that it's the pattern, and it's a well-known, it's narcissistic abuse, and the victim of the abuse who speaks out is the one who ends up outside the family, basically orphaned. And I've seen it time and time again, the same pattern with clients, you know, people who, you know, I remember a woman who she'd realized she'd been sexually abused by a family member, and when she came to her senses, I think she was probably in her 30s, like well into adulthood, and she realized what had happened. When she spoke out about that, her entire family abandoned her, every single one, because not because they didn't believe her, but because the main thing is that they had to sort of take a look at themselves, and they had to take a look at what was real. And because that was too painful, it was easier to make her the bad guy than to take a look at themselves. And that's the same for your parents, it's the same for my parents, it's the same for many people's families. They don't want to look at themselves, and they're in fear about what that would mean. And, you know, I remember a friend of mine who helped me when I first needed to do case studies and stuff, and we did some therapy together. And she was very afraid of fully dropping into looking at herself because she worried that it would unravel the fabric of her own existence. And this is not an easy journey. And me and you have both unraveled the fabric of our own existence because we had to do that to survive. And it's not easy, but you know, the big news flash here is that everyone is on that journey, and there's no way to escape it. You know, it has to happen. And if you don't unravel the fabric of your own existence and you don't find out what's true for you, you will spend the rest of your life accumulating emotional and physical symptoms. And
that right there, yeah. And I still have quite a bit of that, you know, I'm working through, as you know, but that, it's like, that is the consequence of you not doing this. You know, it's the accumulation of both sides, emotional and physical. And it's like, do you really want that? You know, why are so many people horrendously sick by the time they're in their 50s and 60s? For precisely that reason. You know, yes, there's other stuff around it to do with our society and environment, but that's it right there.
what a lot of people don't know, and you're not going to hear this from your doctor, is that physical disease, every physical manifestation, I'm not saying that there aren't other variables. There's obviously diet, there's exercise, there's genetics to a certain degree, like all of that stuff. But everything that is a physical manifestation is, you know, there's like some kind of emotional root there that's causing that. So if you see a physical symptom, for example, pain in your body, it's your body shouting at you and like waving the flags. It's like your body can't talk, but your body does have a consciousness. So your body consciousness will use physical symptoms, a headache, bad guts, like pain in your shoulders, you know. Autoimmune problems is a classic because autoimmune is you're basically internally in your body, the cells of your body are attacking you. Now that's negative thoughts. That's like your finger pointing at yourself going, you're a, you know, you're not good enough. Like, you know, you should be better than this. You should have more money. Why isn't your house big enough? Why aren't you driving that kind of car? You know, why are you a crap mum? You know, all of this kind of like, you know, whatever I do, nothing ever works. And like, that's autoimmune stuff. And I don't know about you, but like everybody surrounding me has autoimmune stuff. And I was starting to get that when I was in my 30s. And you know, I had like chronic pain in my back, and I just thought, oh my God, like how can I have chronic pain? I wasn't even 40, and my doctor told me I would have it forever. And I don't have any pain in my body, and I haven't needed to see a doctor for 10 years. So I could have gone that way and like listened to him and become an invalid and like continue to not be able to put on my own socks, or like, you know, run for the bus and like have terrible broken sleep because I couldn't turn over at night. That was the journey he wanted me to go on. But he was incorrect, even though he went to university and was like this big, powerful doctor. It's kind of like, really? So I found ways to heal my emotion. And therefore, when I integrated what had gone on for me and I released that emotion, my body responded to that by not shouting at me anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the pain went, and I've never felt better.
I was just going to say, it's amazing, like the journey that you've had to, in terms of that healing, and especially physical healing, you know, to the point where you don't have any issues in the body at all anymore. And like for me, like in all honesty, I still have a degree of that I'm working through, as you know, like some of it, yeah, it's just like classic, you know, sort of what you would call older. When you get older, you start getting, you know, complaints from parts of the body that I would say in, you know, normal scientific circles, well, that's just age related, you know, like higher blood pressure and headaches and, you know, fatigue and autoimmune issues and all of that. And, you know, I'm still working through a lot of that at the moment. But I'm a big believer in this. And I think for me, like, we can get into this another time, but like what I think what we're talking about here is, one, the recognition that these issues do stem from what we do or don't face in terms of our emotions. You know, and it's the willingness to acknowledge that, and then what are we going to do about it? You know, what action are we actually going to take? You know, what commitment are we going to make to ourselves to actually see some results, some positive results? You know. Mm.
Yeah, well, the first step is awareness. And you know, I would advise anyone watching this video, anybody that wants to figure out why they're self-destructing, and it does feel like that. And I've had quite a lot of self-destruct go on quite recently that I've been trying to unravel. But like
I think the important thing just to say that we also want to say here is that, like, if you don't mind me saying, is that, you know, for the journeys that we've been on and like where we've got to, we're not perfect, right? We still have our stuff, and you know, we still like come up against some, you know, howlers sometimes, and we have to work through stuff. But you know, we recognize that we've, like you said at the beginning, we've from pretty much the day we're born had some really tough journeys, and there's a lot that we can kind of give back to people as a result. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's in the unraveling of our life that we are able to help other people. And you know, I'm in the middle of something right now that is quite unpleasant. So the journey just continues, but the better it gets, the better it gets. And ultimately, we've both got faith in what we've been doing and the healing that we've done, and there's so much of it. And you know, if there are people out there listening and you haven't started this journey yet, start, because you will immediately feel that something has changed as soon as you start bringing awareness to yourself. Like, it isn't, I think one of the main things is it's just not wrong to be traumatized. Like, if you were born on earth, you have PTSD, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And there's so much programming, as people are finding out and are about to find out. And something terrible that has happened is that the trauma that we've all experienced has been normalized. You know, so for example, you know, my mum actually said to me that everyone hit their kids in the 70s. So so just because, you know, just because there was a cultural norm doesn't mean that the effects of that trauma on a person's nervous system aren't happening, because it's also happening to the person next door and the person next door to them. The way that trauma has been normalized has been a terrible blocker of people's healing, you know, on this planet.
You know, another one I've heard countless times from that generation is just to say is oh, everyone, you know, had their boobs or their ass felt back then, or you know, everyone had their hand put up their skirt back then. You know, it's not even a thing. Like, well, if you want normalizing, there it is, right there. You know,
It's terrible. It's so terrible. But yeah, basically, it isn't wrong or bad to be traumatized. It's not wrong or bad to be angry. It's not wrong or bad to be emotional. I mean, part of the programming and the limiting beliefs are being taught wrongly about emotion when we were kids. So, you know, by people in authority, we were told not to cry. We were told to stop showing off. So by being told not to cry, you know, particularly for men, boys don't cry and all of that, like, that immediately is a block that you put in your subconscious mind, and you reject the aspect of yourself that cries in order to release emotion. So if you then have a life in front of you where you're not crying and you don't have that release, in the cells of your body, the toxicity of that emotion is collecting. That's what the pain is. That's what the disease is. That's what the physical symptoms are. It's what you've repressed as a result of that belief. So when someone's told you stop showing off, they're crushing your beautiful exuberance as a child, your naturalness, your spinning round and round enthusiastically, your joy, your joy. So I was raised as a Catholic, and the programming that Catholic people receive is off the charts, like particularly around joy.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Can I just say, Jen, before I forget, like with what you just said there, because it's so on point for me, like in reflection for what I've gone through as a young boy and then a man, where um that side of me has been so shut down from being a kid, where, don't act up, don't make a scene, basically don't be yourself, don't express yourself, because it's uncomfortable for me, it's too much for me. That's what I would get all the time as a child. You're too much, you're too loud, you're too energetic, and so there's this constant attack on you just being who you were, and I'm not saying that it's not difficult for parents. It is, like, this human experience is hard, but anyway, we get this trauma as a result. And now me, as I've gone into my 40s, as you know, my face, like, I know that I've got like this wall, it's like this dam of emotion and tears that's trapped behind my face. So I get all these different symptoms and pain and discomfort in my face and in my head because I literally can't get that stuff out, and I'm still working on it, and I know it's there and it presents in certain medical symptoms, you might say, but the reality is that there is a wall, a sea of emotion waiting to come out. So yeah, just in the mirror to what you said.
well, you've just made me think of, like, the programming that we've all had to not express, like, in like that, not expressing in so many ways is absolutely, it's mind-blowing what that's done. That's why we are having a zombie apocalypse, because basically, don't do this, don't do that, be shh. That's like one of the biggest ones that people have. Shh, shh. We don't say that. Shh. So everything, like, my biggest trigger is a game of pretend. Like, like, oh God, I don't even know how to put it into words. I can feel my blood boiling now.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's like, don't burst my bubble. I'm quite happy in playing my little game of pretend. Don't come along and pop it.
Yeah, like the programming that I've had, like that, don't express yourself. Like, I was taught not to need. So if you, as a child, if you ask for help, or you ask for something to eat because you're hungry, or you ask for some affection or some attention, you're made the bad guy. You know, you end up just not being able to do anything. So this is when people are just kind of like in freeze mode, because that's all they were allowed to do, was just freeze and just be quiet, don't move. Like, I mean, how many times do you hear parents say to their kids, don't move, or
Yeah. And the result of this, like, when we get this continual response, I think for many of us, I know for me and for you as well, that as a child, our response is to look at what's going on and think, oh my God, this isn't love, this isn't nurture, this isn't kindness and compassion. So I'm going to go away and deal with this myself. So we put a wall around us to protect ourselves, which is one of our patterns, right? And then we scurry off, and it's like, well, I'm going to deal with this myself now. And for most of us in that predicament, we then carry through our lives, basically with that same mindset of, I'm going to go off and deal with this for myself. I can't really trust anybody else. Nurturing doesn't exist. Love doesn't exist. Don't know what that is. And so, we can end up actually really isolating ourselves and be in this perpetual cycle of doing it ourselves, which can be really lonely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the limiting belief, is I can't ask for help because I'm not allowed, or the help isn't there, so there's no point asking. And so we were taught to not need, we were taught to not ask for help. I mean, where does that leave us when we download that? Like, these beliefs are downloads into the cells of our body, which then cause the symptoms, either the mental symptoms, the emotional symptoms, the physical symptoms. I mean, another one for me was, I was not allowed to react. So even though I was being abused, I wasn't allowed to react to the abuse. So, a classic one is anger, because I've you know, been accused of having an anger management problem in my life, because I've been so angry about how I've been treated and how it's affected my life and what I've had to do to unravel the fabric of my own existence in order to exist, in order to be safe, in order to keep my child safe, in order to be okay in the world and cope, you know. Like, we all deserve better than just coping. Like, we want lives that are actually good. Do you know what I mean? Like, to get through the wall of like survival mode it's intense, you know. But like, to be taught that you're not allowed to react, so you're not allowed to feel angry. I mean, anger is one of the most beautiful emotions that there are, because it's powerful. I'd rather be angry than depressed. Because when you're depressed, you've got no fight left, you're disempowered, everything's black, there's no movement, nothing changes. When you're angry, you're active. When you're angry, you're safe, because you're expressing yourself. Now, anger teaches you where your boundaries are. Anger teaches you how to be a sovereign being. Anger teaches you what's unfair. It teaches you what's okay for you, what's not okay for you. So, you know, I'm not actually that angry anymore, because I've like expressed it and I've like, you know, moved through it, and I know what to do with anger when it arises, and I know what to teach my child when she feels angry. You know, you need to express it. You need to express it in ways that, if you can, that doesn't hurt other people. It teaches you your boundaries. Like, if you're not expressing your anger, you let people walk all over you. You allow yourself to be abused. You're vulnerable. You're in danger. You're unsafe if you don't express your anger. So when I first started to unravel my life, and I wanted to speak to my parents about what had gone on when we were kids, and I didn't come at it all like the blame shame game, because I know that the blame shame game doesn't work. But they couldn't handle my anger. And basically, I remember someone else in my family saying, Jen, you need to calm down. You know, you need to calm down, because like, it doesn't work when you're like that around them. And I do sort of see that now, but it's like, so you're seriously asking the victim of the abuse to calm down so that the perpetrator of the abuse can feel more comfortable. It's insane. It's insanity. It's insanity. And like, that same family member like asked me when all this healing would be over that I was doing, because it was making them feel bad. Because the healing that I was doing was making them uncomfortable,
Yeah,
because
it was
they
they're at the
caused
risk
it.
of having to look at themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was easier for them to go, angry, 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 you know, not good, the bad guy, all of that. It was easier for them to point their finger at me instead of looking at themselves. But like, we know that when someone's pointing at you, there's three pointing back at them.
Yeah, of course. And then yeah.
I love
And
that.
this is also like you know, denial, you know, and when we when we deny something, we project it outward. So we it can't possibly be about us or something that's to do with us or what we might need to look at in ourselves. So we project it straight out onto someone.
Yeah.
That's the default response, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And that actually, that's a miraculous thing that you've just put in my head there, because what a lot of people don't understand about triggers, you know, like, triggers are a word that a lot of people seem to be it's flying around at the moment. Like, you know, when you're triggered, what does that mean when you're triggered? I mean, when you're triggered, you've got like heightened emotion. Someone said something and it's upset you. Like, when you see someone else get triggered, you're kind of looking at them curiously, like, what just happened? Like, because the thing that happened just there, you wouldn't blink at, but you wouldn't blink at that thing because that's not your trigger. So that person had a meltdown over something that you wouldn't have had a meltdown over. Now, that doesn't mean that that person's a drama queen. There's no such thing as a drama queen. Like, if someone's emotional, it's because they need to be. So if someone triggers you, or something, a circumstance, situation triggers you, it's because that has reminded your nervous system of something in the past that's happened that you have suppressed because it was painful. So when that trigger comes, it's your body again. Your body and your subconscious mind is pretty much the same thing, like the cells of your body memory, all of that. It's showing you there's something for you to see. So most times people will have the spliff or drink the wine or eat the food, like have the thing that makes you not feel or whatever. But the better thing to do, and I'm not saying that those things aren't sometimes good to do, because they are, let's face it, and we're all human. But the thing to do once you've got that message is to ask yourself questions like, why did I react like that? When did I first feel that feeling in my life? And most times a trigger, people know what their triggers are. I can't speak in front of a group of people, or you know, I don't like loud noise, or, you know, whatever the thing is. It's to just bring awareness to that thing. But also, another secret is when, because it actually, like, it's really helpful to look at positive triggers as well, because joy, for example, we were saying, has been crushed in a lot of people. So sometimes when you're idolizing someone, so it's a positive trigger, you're like looking at this spiritual teacher or this comedian or this actor or this high-flying businessman or this person that you admire because they have qualities that, you know, are valued, you know, you're idolizing that person and you're like, I just wish I was like that, and, you know, how could, and you just want more from you just can't get enough of hearing about this person and like what they've got to offer and stuff. Now, the reason that that's happening, that's a trigger. It's because that's a suppressed aspect of you. So that person, like, you're like, oh, it's me. Actually, that's me. But like, you don't think it's you, because the negative aspect is not, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. But the reason that you're like, oh my God, I just love that person and I just love
it's like
being
I
around
can
them.
be that. It's like that's me. There's somewhere in me that exists. I love what you said, because this is really simplifying that understanding, right? That whatever is triggering us positively or negatively, when from what we perceive in another, it means that it exists within us, you know. And
Otherwise, it
if there's
wouldn't.
no trigger, then then it doesn't exist within us,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So you can ask yourself, like, how is it possible, now that I know this information, how is it possible that that could be an aspect of me? And if that's true, when did I have that knocked out of me, and who by?
Yeah.
When did I stop believing that that is who I am, that that's an aspect of me, you know? And then just think back to your childhood. What were you like when you were a kid, when you were just unbridled joy, when your parents weren't around and you were out in the garden, or you were down like round the corner roller skating with your friends, or whatever it was? Like, who was that? And what were you like? And are you still like that? And does it feel like that aspect of you is gone? Because just sit with yourself and try and reconnect with that child, that playfulness, because that's like one of the highest frequencies. You know, actually, when people talk about inner child work, our inner child, like a lot of people say, is actually our higher self. It's like the same thing. And, you know, a lot of people say our higher self is actually our future self. And our future self is just us getting back to who we were, getting back to it's kind of like this full circle thing going on. Like, there's nothing magical about our higher self. It's just us, like, as we are, without all this shit stuck to us.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, so also going back to the triggers, so like a negative trigger, that person that you just cannot stand at work, that just makes your blood boil and sends you into rage as soon as you like clap eyes on them in the morning, like, it's you. It's you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've had that so
How
many
is that
times.
person like me? You know, because wouldn't you rather know? Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't you rather reveal that to yourself? Oh my God, that's an aspect of me. Wouldn't you rather bring your awareness to that so that you can integrate it, so that you can like bring awareness to that, so that you're not being like that in the presence of other people? Because other people can see your subconscious repressed aspects, but you can't. So that's why using the reflections around you is going to like change everything, everything,
So
everything.
this is why it's so important as well, isn't it? And like, because it has the power to change everything. It's like in every person we meet, you know, whether in work or in our personal lives, it's like, you know, there's always like for me there are no chance encounters, right? It's like everything that we experience, every person that we meet, everyone that comes into our lives, you know, there's so much opportunity, like especially when we get triggered, you know, if we have the, you know, tools in the box to you know, to analyze and make sense rather than reacting, you know, because like that's what the programming is, right? To react, fight or flight, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the 5 Fs I said? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or fuck. They were the 5 Fs when we
Yeah.
react. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we should do another video just on the 5 Fs. That'd probably be
Be really helpful because like not everybody realizes that there's that many. The fuck one is actually much more widespread than you'd think. I found out from sessions.
absolutely. Yeah.
I've learned a few things from that, but yeah, for sure, it's another video. I mean, this is such a meaty subject. There's so much here. I mean, like, I think it's important to give people like quite a few examples of what the limiting beliefs could be. I mean, like a lot of people want to bust the abundance blockers and stuff like that. I think that the key to, I'm still working on that, you know, because I had a boatload. Think about like what your parents were like with money and what would they say. So, for example, my dad would say things like, "What are we doing wrong?" You know, so the we, you know, the tribal we. So when you're a small child and you're like listening to their conversations, that's you, that's us. It's like that's us, you know, my family. We're doing something wrong when it comes to money. We're doing something wrong. So download, right? You download that and you take that into your adult life, and then you wonder why you don't have like enough money at the end of the month, and you wonder why, like, as soon as you get money, you've lost it again. You wonder why, like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong, but it's subconscious. You don't realize that you think that you're doing something wrong. You just attract that you are doing something wrong, and
Yeah.
something
And
wrong keeps happening.
you know, another great example of that is you know, I think in the Western world, most of us are given this, aren't we? Like this program where the parents say, yeah, life is hard, you know, and yeah, and you have to work hard and you have to like do all this difficult work to eventually get to a place where you might just be okay, you know, and you might have an okay life and things are right. But life is really fucking hard and you have to work really fucking hard to get anywhere, you know?
It
What
makes me
a
cringe.
program.
It makes me cringe. You know, like a very Catholic one, like is you just have to put up with it. Or in Yorkshire, they say you just have to make do. You just have to make do. You know, it's like you're not powerful. You just get what you're given. That's another one. You get what you're given.
Mm.
So if you just get what you're given, what you sit around for the rest of your life waiting for handouts. Like, is that what you do? Is that really? So that's why people end up on benefits for like lifetimes, because you just get what you're given. You don't, there's no point going out and getting. There's no point being powerful. You just have to sit around like that, like begging. That is a download. You need to
Absolutely.
know it's there. Like you need to know it's there. What did your parents say around you? What did you download? Because all of these beliefs, it's like you're wearing sunglasses. It's like having a headset on. And that headset, you know, that's your reality. It isn't the objective reality at all, because abundance is always flowing to us in multiple ways. We don't have to go looking for it. We don't have to wait to be given it as well. Like on some level, we have to take action, but on some level, it doesn't matter if we take action or not. It's a bit
Mm.
of an anomaly. But like all of these beliefs are just the filters that we experience life through. We don't know that they're there. Like we were born with this headset on,
Yeah.
and it's like you have to know that you're wearing a headset. You have to know that you've got all this stuff in the cells of your body, and no one else can really show you that. I mean, well, the people in your reality are showing you that without even trying. All you've got to do is become attuned to the messages coming at you, you know. I mean,
I
like,
think it's also, I was just going to say, I think it's also really good to see, to hold that in our minds, like this thing of, okay, I'm wearing this headset and I recognize that everyone else is wearing a headset as well. And what the programs that are running in this one could be completely different to the ones that are running over there. So, you know, if I can recognize that about me and other people that I interact with, you know, it gives me like a greater awareness of the life experience that each of us is experiencing, and like how different they can be, you know. And I think that can make us a lot more aware and a lot more compassionate, you know, when we're dealing with other people.
yeah, it can help you understand what's going on. And yeah, compassion is everything. I mean, I've got a list down here of things that you know, it literally 5 or 10 minutes of me writing them down. It was like I couldn't stop. There's so many of them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, a very Catholic one is you've just got to put up with it, you know. So someone in my family was really struggling, and their partner was drinking, not looking after the kids properly. There was all this stuff going on, and someone else in the family goes, "Have you thought of just putting up with it?" Like that was their advice. It's like, really? And it's just things like, you know, similar to the getting your joy crushed and all of that and your self-esteem eroded away. I mean, my mum would say to me, Jennifer needs to be knocked down a peg or two. You know, like, you know, this is an educator. So this is a person who is around children. And so, like, you know, it is a very Catholic belief that children need to be seen and not heard, and that children do need to be knocked down, like as if that's like some kind of virtuous thing that you're doing for their own good. It's for your own good. So this is like, when you think about it's for your own good, oh, like the governments of the world are doing it now. It's for your own good. You know, have this vaccination, take these pharmaceutical drugs. It's like the child catcher, isn't it, from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Like the evil of it. It's like for your own good. Like that's when governments went wrong, when they started to sort of almost become your mum or your dad.
Yeah, they
Like
started doing the thinking, wanting to do the
you're not
thinking for us.
you're not powerful. Like you haven't got the faintest idea how to live your life or what choices to make. You know, choice is another one. Choice, like you don't get to choose. You get what you're given. So something as simple as you get what you're given is a download which prevents you from realizing that there are opportunities around you in every waking moment, and that there are choices that you can make. You can, like me, I could believe the doctor and become a crippled invalid, not able to walk or do anything for myself for the rest of my life. Or I could just get some balls and like do some research and like figure it out, which I did. It makes me angry.
Yeah.
So
Can I just mention briefly there, when you were talking about the governments and, you know, that how they, we probably need to do another video on this as well, how they increasingly are encroaching to do the thinking for us, because we shouldn't be. You know, when you start to recognize that most governments around the world have behavioral sciences divisions dedicated to manipulating and gaslighting to control our thinking. But that's the subject for another video. But I just want to throw that in because I'm very passionate about that stuff. Yeah.
gaslighting is the word. Yeah, yeah. Gaslighting is probably what pretty much all of us experienced. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, I mean, basically gaslighting is when an illusion is created and passed off as reality. The worst way that it affects people is when you're not allowed to have your own schemer. So you don't have, you're it's almost like you're not entitled to have your own perception. So it's when you have your perception messed with, and somebody makes you feel if you're in a relationship and you feel confused, it's likely that that person is gaslighting you. So they're not allowing you to feel what you feel. They're not allowing you to see what you see. They're not allowing you to hear what you hear. And if you say that you're hearing what you're hearing, and then they say that you're not, that's gaslighting big time.
Mm-hmm. I just got an example of that you might, I think, will find funny, just to do with like the programs we get as children. Like one of mine from my parents would be where they would say, I had a fantastic childhood. Everything about it was wonderful. And, you know, when you're younger, obviously, you know, you're kind of not sure. You're like, well, it doesn't seem like you did, like, you know, but okay. And then later on, you realize that that's completely gaslighting you, but they're also gaslighting themselves, you know? It's like, oh my God, what a howler. And that's just one example, you know.
Well, I mean, there's another. I mean, I used to think that I'd had not a fantastic childhood, but I used to have these rosy kind of specs on, and I thought, you know, things were better than they were. But it was because I'd hidden it all from myself. And, you know, I had a terrible experience in, you know, when I was having postnatal depression experience, and it was like my head opened and I suddenly had access to all the memories that I suppressed at once. And that's how I had the spiritual awakening, which wasn't pleasant, like having it all suddenly come at you like that fast. But yeah, like I was gaslighting myself because I was protecting myself from what was real. But I was gaslighting myself because I had been gaslit for my entire childhood. So it was a symptom. But someone in my family, in a similar way to that, right? When I was falling out with my family, this person said to me, "Come on, Jen, what's going on here? We're a close family." And so I said to this person, "So if we're so close, why haven't I seen you for 5 years?" I mean, so this person was gaslighting themselves as well, because they didn't want to see the obvious, like, kind of like fractures in the family. They didn't want to see it. So it suited them to say we're a close family, because that's the way that they'd always gaslit themselves. But I mean, unfortunately, the gaslighting thing had like worn off me. I was just like, get over yourself. I mean, you're just lying to yourself. I mean, it's not even real what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people do it to themselves, and denial is part of this process. Like, you know, coming out of denial is the most painful experience that there is.
Yeah,
It's
and there's so many
yeah,
layers of that, right? Like as we go along in our healing journey, like the layers that each time we get through and get to a different layer, and then we have to feel that pain, you know, whether it's mental or physical. But it's so necessary, right? So we can come out of another little layer of denial, or sometimes a bigger layer of denial. But it's a continual process, and it is fucking hard, which is why so many people spend so long avoiding it at all costs, right? Doing that work.
and like in a similar way to how you can gaslight yourself, you can also deny the denial,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's not nice to like realize. It's not nice to realize that you're in denial
I
and that
think
you
that's a
have
massive
been.
part of this, isn't it? It's like, you know, for people that watching this, is like the perhaps maybe addressing this stuff for the first time, new to it. It's like the scale of it, you know, and no wonder like it can be
Immense.
avoided for so long.
It's immense, but like, as well as it's a hard journey, it's an amazing journey. And like the things that you experience when you get through a block is absolutely profound. It's
Hmm.
profound and it's magical. And even though this journey is really hard and it continues to be, it's better than if I hadn't gone on this journey. Because if I hadn't gone on this journey, I would look older than I am now. I'd probably be overweight. I probably wouldn't be able to walk. Um, probably have disease.
Full of medication. Yeah.
I'd be full of probably vaccinations, medication, stuff that I've seen I don't need, and it's dangerous. Um, I'm glad. that I've unraveled the fabric of my own existence. I
Mm-hmm.
really
And
am.
you've just said something really important there as well about each time we get through a layer and we heal something, life changes as a result, right? Our frequency changes, and therefore the reality around us changes by effect, and we'll experience something new, or we'll go to a new place, or suddenly doors will be open that just were slammed shut before. So it's very much worthwhile, right?
It's
Yeah.
magical. It's absolutely magical. Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking at a couple of others I've got down here. Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And even like really simple ones like shut up. Shut up, Jennifer. Jennifer's got nothing interesting to say, which is a tricky one when you have got quite a lot of interesting things to say. Um, there are children starving in Africa. That's a big abundance blocker, because when you're given that information, and you know that there are children starving in Africa, but that means that you download into your body, I can't have abundance because other people are suffering. So, while there's suffering in the world, I can't be abundant. I can't have if they can't have. So that's a terrible one.
You just made me think of one there quickly, which is we see in the world around us big time, especially recent years. Do as you're told.
Do as you're told. Do as you're told. I hadn't even thought, because it's so simple. Do as you're told.
How many times have each of us heard that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it's hard for parents, because we do need children to listen to us and understand what we're saying and to act appropriately based on the guidance that we're giving them. But it's all too easy to instill a program like that, which in our adult life can turn us into a compliant, consuming, conforming robot. So,
You're
sorry.
told. I'm so glad that you said do as you're told, because that's a classic. Um, you know, another one. What would people think? What would people say? What
Yeah.
would people do? Like, who cares? Who gives a shit? Like, but yeah, we're all made to feel like, you know, we're somehow scrutinized by other people, and that we are an open forum for other people to like pick holes in.
I still have that one, what will people think of me? I still have it.
Yeah, and you're showing me up, you're embarrassing me, or whatever. It's like, normally when a child is crying or whatever, the parent is embarrassed, as if they should be able to handle their child better, or if they were a better parent, their child wouldn't be crying. But because all this bollocks like comes from limiting beliefs in itself. It's like, if my child's crying, people will see me as a bad mum or whatever. But like, if I see a child crying, I'm like, good, that child's expressing itself. And like, I'm always looking at the parent to see what's the parent going to do about the child crying, because like like when we were all having the terrible twos and we were throwing ourselves down on the floor in Tesco's or whatever, like if our parents had got down on the floor with us and gone, do you know what, I sometimes feel angry, and when I feel angry I feel really hot and like red in the face, and it's like normally when something feels unfair, or when you can't have something that you want, or it's a really strong feeling and it makes you want to hit something, and like it isn't wrong to feel that way, and like if you just let yourself feel it, soon in 5 minutes time you'll be through that emotion and you'll be smiling again. But right now, be angry, because you need to be in that feeling, get through to the other side and feel all of it all the way, and then things will change, and then you might feel a little bit sad, and then after that you can just feel sad for a bit, and then after that we'll go to the park and everything will be great or whatever. If our parents had done that, none of us would have any trouble now at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
yeah.
wouldn't have any problems. Like, we wouldn't hold on to anything in our body. We wouldn't make ourselves the bad guy. We wouldn't think that we'd done something wrong. We wouldn't think that we are someone wrong, because that's what shame is. Shame is when we were taught that we are wrong, that we are fundamentally wrong and bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like every single person who comes to me for therapeutic work, every single one without exception thinks that they are fundamentally wrong and bad, and that everyone else knows what they're doing and that they've got it right, that everyone else has got some kind of secret to life that they don't have.
Yeah, I see it in most people. Yeah.
We were all shamed, which is, shame is like the lowest frequency out of like all of the emotions, you know, joy and gratitude and love and all of that is up there. Shame is right at the bottom. It doesn't get any lower than thinking that you are bad, that you are a bad person, that you are wrong and bad, or that you are fundamentally, there's something weird, twisted and warped about you. Like, you know, you ought to be ashamed of yourself is one that like we had in our house. Like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. So we ought to be the lowest frequency in the universe, right? That's going to help us move forward in life.
Absolutely. I think that's the key point, isn't it? Like most of the patterning that we get is putting us into the lowest possible frequencies, you know, as we go through life, as we go into adulthood.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, another one that is really terrible for people's lives is when they're kind of dumbed down. Like, there's loads of different ways that a parent would have put it, but when you're too good, like, you know, if you're too beautiful or you're too clever or like you're too successful, when someone draws attention to a quality of yours, and then you're like, oh shit, am I not supposed to be, you know, like the kids at school, it's like, you can't put your hand up too often, you can't be the teacher's pet, like you can't be you know, it's just so terrible. It's like, you know, basically you were told to stop being so good, you know. I mean, quite a lot of kids who have like a vulnerable child in their family, like either a child that's like much younger or a child that has some sort of special needs or like an autistic child or something like that. Like, sometimes those children are told not to be so good so the other child doesn't feel quite so self-conscious or whatever. The repercussions that reverberate of that in a person's life when you're told not to be so good is, it's so disabling. It's, I
Absolutely.
can't even begin to like.
Yeah, it's like you're continually told you're too much in whatever area, so you shut parts of yourself down, and then more parts, and then more parts, and then, you know, people wonder why, you know, we're so screwed up as we get into adulthood, you know.
That,
And do you know what? One of the worst and most aggravating phrases that I've ever heard when it comes to people, you know, psychology and people, you know, just generally. Oh no, I've forgotten it. It's gone out of my head. Oh my God, what was it? Oh yeah, I've got it. A well-adjusted individual, you know, well-adjusted. What does that mean, well-adjusted? Does that mean severely fucked up and somehow managing to function in the world? So you're well-adjusted. What is that, an achievement? Is that like, you know, something to be proud of? Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but that really
you're
winds me
so
up.
right. You're so right, because like so many people look at their kids, their good kids, the good kids, um, the kids that sit in class and they don't say anything and they're quiet and they get good school reports, and you know, just because your kid's getting on well at school and they don't get into trouble doesn't mean they're okay. And I was a teacher for 10 years, and I remember all the quiet girls, all the like kids that were intimidated by all the nutcases. Like, you know, those kids aren't always all right. And to, you know, there's a really famous quote by some clever soul, I can't remember, but, and I can't remember how the quote goes, but like, being well adjusted to a sick society doesn't mean that you're well adjusted. It actually might mean the opposite.
Yeah, totally.
You know, school is a terrible thing, terrible. And at some
I
point
agree.
that system is coming down. And the reason it's terrible is because they do nothing to advanced children's potential. Zero. And I know that because I went through teacher training. If a child is well adjusted at school, it doesn't mean that they're okay. It doesn't mean that they're well adjusted. It probably means that they're incredibly brainwashed. It probably means they have no boundaries. It probably means that they're deeply in fear, and watch that space when that child gets out into the real world.
It probably means they're being well groomed to be a good little robot.
Yeah, groomed is the word. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you know, I
Compliant,
think,
submissive.
yeah, the schools are, you know, grooming houses, aren't they? Basically.
Amongst other things. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Terrifying. Yeah, and it's not just, yeah, as well as the actual words that we're surrounded by. Obviously, it's the actions as well. It's the things that our parents said or did. And like, I think I've told you about this before, and like, this might seem like a bit of a silly example, but like, I've got this memory. And like, when I first started to do EFT, I was like tapping about this. There was so much power in it. There was so many beliefs in this one event that happened. And I had a load of little bits and bobs in my room, and I decided to have like a sale, kind of like a garage sale, and to my sisters. And so everything was priced. Like, it was my labor of love. And I spent like all day making little price labels, 2p for this and 1p for that and 20p for this. And it was like my business. I'd set up a business, right? I set up a business and I had my shop all laid out. And then once I'd done it, I went and got my sisters, and they were like, "Oh, let's have a look around." And they enjoyed the game. It was like role play. It was like a game of pretend in a good way. What children are supposed to be doing, right? Creativity, like experimentation. So I was doing all of this creative play. I can't remember how old I was. My sisters came up and they were like, "Oh," they went and got their piggy banks and like emptied the money out and then gave me 10p for this. And then anyway, my mum was like, "Oh, it's got quiet upstairs. Like something must be going wrong." So she came upstairs and she shut my business down. And she didn't give me any reason why there was something wrong that I was doing, or she was just like, "No, no, 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 we don't know, no, no." So, there's money issues in there. I'm not powerful. I'm not creative. I don't get to choose. I don't get to set my own business up. So when I was setting my own business up in reality as an adult, oh my God, like the tapping that I had to do to get through the wall of I'm not powerful. I'm not allowed to do this. I have to be a teacher forever. I have to be a slave.
Yeah, I can't be successful because I'll be shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like, and EFT sessions often bring out these funny little things that happen. Like a client will often, I'll take them into their body, into the emotion. Boom, they'll have the emotional root thought memory will come. And then before they've even voiced it, they'll go, "Oh no, it's not going to be that." And I'm like, that. Because as soon as they play it down, I know that's the thing. Because it's like, it's all the times that something happened and it seems like a silly little thing, because like we were so played down, we were so diminished, we were so not allowed to experience what we were experiencing, we were so gaslit, like everything that happened, we were told it wasn't like that, it was like this. So every time someone goes, "Oh, it's not going to be that," I know that the memory that comes when you're tuned into the emotion in your body, boom, that's the one that you have to look at. I'm like, what was that one? And it's always like that funny little thing or that silly little thing. So if someone's made it silly or they've made it funny, people that will laugh about the painful thing that they went through, playing it down, diminishing yourself, like that's always the thing.
This is why therapy is so vital, right? Because it brings things to the surface that just would never get any air otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, even people that do their own emotional work, sometimes you need another person to help you retrieve that thing, because
Mm.
you know you do just dismiss things. You do just kind of like, oh, I'm having this thought, and then you just swipe, like it's your iPad or whatever. If you're having the thought, it's important, you know. Yeah, I mean, I actually think like the strongest, most common limiting belief is I'm not good enough.
Mm.
And that's like very broad, and it's kind of like a hat that sits on every aspect of your life.
Yeah, I'm not worthy, and I'm not lovable.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not lovable. That's a big one. Yeah, yeah, for sure. How are we doing for time?
I've no idea. I've completely lost track of it, to be honest. It's just been too good talking about all this. So
Yeah. Have you got anything else that you want to say? I feel like I've had a bit of a rant actually. It's kind of been quite therapeutic for me.
yeah, as for me, like I had a few notes, but we covered all of those things anyway. So
Hmm.
yeah, really, it's really good.
Yeah, I think we've unearthed a few limiting beliefs between us that we've kind of struggled with, and then we've also helped people understand what they actually do, so that they sit in your body um as blockers, and basically they're in the cells of your body whether you like to admit that or not. They're downloads until you choose otherwise, because like we have free will. We didn't give permission for all this stuff. We can let this stuff go, and all we have to do is find it,
Mm.
know that it's there, and realize where it came from, and realize that it's not ours. Because when we're wearing these filters, these sunglasses, these headsets, they feel like they're a part of us, and that's why people have identified with their pain, with their trauma. One of the most profound ways to heal is to realize that none of it is you. And it's a bit of an anomaly, because you have to own it. You have to own it, because you have to own it. You have to see it. You have to hear it. You have to feel it. You have to allow yourself to have been kept down by it. You have to see that that's happened, in order, like, as Louise Hay would say, in order to clean the house, you have to see the dirt.
Yeah, and the other one is what you resist persists, and what you look at disappears, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have to own it, but at the same time, don't attach to it forever. Like, sometimes people recycle their trauma and their beliefs, um, because they're in
Almost
victim
like
mode.
wear it like a badge of honor, and then they're just like
Yeah.
spinning their
And
wheels in the mud.
well, it's understandable to be in victim mode, victim mentality, and it's like a part of the process.
Mm.
And we are all victims, but we can't stay there. We can't stay in that frequency, because it's not going to help. It is a necessary step of the journey. But you have to see that all of this stuff was always meant to be temporary, and we've made it permanent in our bodies by not looking at it. So
Spot on. Yeah.
it's just like, emotion, trauma, limitation, struggle, limiting beliefs, like it's all temporary, but we don't believe it is, because it's been stuck to us literally forever. So we've got to get it out. We've got to get it off, and we've got to find out who we are, because there's a future ahead of us that is so much better than what we've been through. And we can't live it, and we can't start to sort of magnetize that to ourselves until we find out who we are.
Mm.
Because if we don't know who we are, we don't know what we want. So we can't attract what we want if we don't know how to ask for what we want, because we don't know who we are.
And it also means, as you've said, going through so many layers of the self, and seeing what isn't ours and what we don't want, and releasing that, to which then brings us on to what we do want increasingly. So it's a process, isn't it, that you have to do the what I'm not part, to get to the what I truly am part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important. So, this ask and I'll receive, excuse me, plenty of people are asking, praying, like whatever it is, whatever connection they have to the universe, whoever that is that they're talking to or whatever. I mean, ultimately, I think you're talking to yourself.
Totally. I was just going to say
You,
that.
it's
Yeah.
you. And I'm not
Mm.
saying that God doesn't exist. I'm just saying that we are all that, and we are asking ourselves ultimately, and it's ourselves that is not giving to ourselves. That's where we all are. So
Yeah. Oh,
we're
that's gold. That is. Yeah. I need to write that down actually, Jen. That one.
so we're asking, we're praying, we're doing whatever, to bring it in. The things have to come up, all that stuff, like it has to be there because you've asked. So if you're going to get what you want and you've asked, you have to remember that we're not attracting what we want. Like, is a bit misleading, the law of attraction. We're not attracting what we want, we're attracting what we are. So we are in the cells of our body. I don't deserve, my business is getting shut down. Shut up, Jennifer. We just don't go there. What would people say? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Like, what are we doing wrong? Like,
Yeah.
it's like in The Simpsons. In The Simpsons, when Sideshow Bob steps on all the rakes.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
So, like, that's it. You pray, you ask, and then it's like Sideshow Bob.
Mm.
And then you just have to like get through each one, and then the thing.
Yeah. And there is also something in there about what we repeat, right? So sometimes we'll get the same, multiple times in our lives, but eventually, like, we see what it is, right? And
Yeah,
we make a conscious choice to heal that so that we don't repeat it.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, okay. Job's a good one. I
Mm.
like it. I think it was therapeutic for both of us, and I kind of felt like this has been, well, it's been censored like big time, like more than I thought. Unbelievable that it was hard to find keywords. Um, but yeah, why are we self-destructing? I mean, basically that's what I'm gonna put in as the video's keywords and stuff, because people do feel right now that they are on self-destruct. Like, if you can, you imagine what it's like right now in this ascension energy, basically destroying yourself and not knowing why. Because I've gone through phases where I'm destroying myself, and I do know why.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with the awareness that I've got, and I know what to do. Like, I don't know how people are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how people are getting through their days. But then
Mm.
we had this conversation, didn't we? Like, maybe people that are just normal, that are not weird like us, that, people that have been doing the work forever, maybe they're just in their bubble of Netflix and they don't give a shit, and they're just like, oh, I feel a bit off or whatever.
I think you're right. I think there's many people still in their bubble, and but at some point, for most, it gets popped, I believe. I mean, look at the last few years. Pop, 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 pop. So, you know,
Well, I've got my popcorn, and
yeah.
yeah, it's mental. Like, the astrology is crazy.
Mm, mm.
So
I
anyway,
think I think there's a message just quickly in there about, as you go along in the journey. I think there are definitely milestones, right? I think there have been for us, like when you're younger and you're in your 20s, for example, there's normally, I think oftentimes a different set of challenges and awakenings that come compared to when you're in your 30s, your 40s, etc.
yeah.
So, I guess the message there is that, it's a progressive thing, this path. And if you stick with it and stick with the healing, you are going to heal progressively, and you are going to keep going up in frequency. And, over time, you're going to become, healthy, happy, healed, vibrant. All of those things are, it's not just a pipe dream. If you stick with it, you will get there, right?
Well, I mean, we've both had successes along our way. We know that we're going in the right direction, because things change and things move, and you shake things off and you heal things. But yeah, it's unbelievable how much there is, how much there is to do. And I think some of us have picked a path that's harder than a lot of what other people have picked. But, you know, there you go. It's just
it's important to recognize that too. Yeah, we've all got our own paths, and we have to allow each person theirs, don't we? You know, and like, rather than comparing or any of that, it's like, if we can bring ourselves to recognizing that everybody has their own path and none is better than another, you know, from a kind of soul perspective, it's like, you kind of come to terms with yourself and with your life, and you stop judging it and comparing it with other people's, and that definitely helps as well, you know.
Yeah. And I think another thing that is quite important to understand is no one's coming. No one's coming to save you. And a lot of people are like, oh, the aliens will come and sort it out. Or a lot of people are like, you know, still think the government's looking after us. I don't know how that perception exists still. You know, some people think someone will come along on a white horse and rescue me, or I'll meet a rich guy, or you know, I'll find the perfect healer for me, or whatever. Like, it's great to get people to help you to facilitate your healing. It's fantastic to get Reiki, or, you know, have hypnotherapy, or whatever it is that works for you. But ultimately, all you've got is yourself. And, you know, I've had such a powerful kind of 10 years, like helping myself heal. I didn't know that was possible when I first set out, but now I'm teaching people how to do that, because we are all our own gurus, and like there isn't anyone better to help you than you, because no one else knows what you've been through. No one. Like, you are the one that can help you, and anyone can do it. Like, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about you. Well, there is. We're all special, but like, anyone can do this. Like, often people are kind of held back by I'm not good enough, which is the most common belief ever. And it's just, you know, you don't know how good you are until you start. So, I mean, I've got like loads of ways that I can help people facilitate their own healing. So, I now, as well as doing EFT therapy and emotion code therapy, I now teach people how to do EFT. I teach people how to use parts work, which is mind blowing, and inner child work and muscle testing and quantum healing techniques. Like, you can book a training session with me, you can book a therapy session with me, all the links are underneath. I also have a course now, which is called Free Therapy Forever, a crash course in sovereignty, self-healing and self-mastery. And this is a set of 7 interactive videos where you can basically do your own inner work, and it's easy. It's easy. It's so easy. It's easy when you know how. Tim, I'll put your links and everything underneath. Do you want to say anything?
No, yeah, just put the links at the bottom, and people can find me via various platforms. But yeah, we'll just put it all in the bottom.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I just want everybody to know that they can be their own gurus, and that there is, obviously, where we get infatuated with other people and we're like, oh my God, this person has the answer to everything. But that person that you think has the answer to everything is you. As we said earlier, it's you. So on that note, thank you for your company, and
thank you too.
Your activating conversation.
Same. No, thanks, Jen. It's been really good. Always, as always.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right then. Ta-da now. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.